Well, good evening. Welcome to the Mitchell Sentinel podcast. Tonight we got our first guest, Bill Spoo. Dad and Bill are going to talk about Spoo's Mill and mill life and early times here in Mitchell. What year you guys started school here?
1949, I think, Bill.
49?
Yeah.
That was a grip ago.
Yeah. Quite a while back. You know, we didn't even have to get a gun to get him in here tonight. And I know he's afraid I'm going to do a setup on him about, something, about, I told everybody that a long time ago that we started first grade here together in 1949, but he was 12 and I was 6.
Oh, well.
And it was a do-over a couple times for him, but that wasn't true. That was just a rumor I started.
I guess it's already started then, Bill. He's jabbing at you.
I'm pretty good at saying I don't know nothing.
Well, sometimes that's the best way to be.
Well, do you remember a lot about what happened up there in the operation? I mean, according to the letter, all the brothers went to work in the mills over at Sisters at a pretty young age.
Oh, I think so. I remember my dad talking about being 11 years old there at Sisters and loading up a load of lumber by hand, then driving the truck clear to Salem to sell the load of lumber.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have any child labor laws there, so the kids didn't have any protection at all. So, everybody worked.
Yeah.
And I imagine that if your folks had or your grandparents had girls, they'd probably been pulling the green chain right along with everybody else.
Oh, I'm sure of it. Yeah. Yeah, my granddad didn't have nothing against going over the old Ochico when it was snowy, in just a car.
Yeah.
He was kind of skinny and light, and my grandma was kind of heavy, so he'd put her on the back bumper to give him more traction.
Have to pry her off when they got there and she's froze to the bump.
Well, my brother and I used to laugh that we'd look out the rear window of that old Chevrolet and see my grandma kind of clawing at that trunk trying
That's, I don't know if these modern day women be equipped to do that today.
Well, a lot of them's too light; they wouldn't do no good.
Yeah, well, yeah, you'd have to put rocks in their pockets or something. Yeah, now you were born in Mitchell or in Prineville? Prineville, the old hospital.
Yeah, down by the river, kind of.
Yeah, we both there. I kept telling people, I said, I'll keep waiting for put that sign up in Prineville. Maybe they can put your name on it too. But it said Dan Cannon was born here. Well, so we can add Bill Spoo and Dan Cannon both on that.
Yeah,
1943, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me and my brother were both born there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well, at the time it was, but up until the time they built that hospital and got it going there, at that time, most of the kids in Mitchell were born home.
Oh,
they were home born.
Well, both Lyle Cole, my granddad, and Grandpa Cannon were born in Mitchell, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. My dad was born in Mitchell, and the doctor was Dr. Jenkins, which was one of the few doctors around here, and he was the last one born, and he was 9 years after. He's born 9 years after the youngest daughter, and so his mother was getting up there pretty much in age. And Dr. Jenkins, she welcomed him so much to take care of her and everything that she named my dad. His middle name was Jenkins, Robert Jenkins, and he hated that because at the time Jenkins had a cartoon character out, and he was a butler on one of the comics in the newspaper, and the kids teased him unmercifully about being Jenkins the butler. So my dad from then on went with Robert J. Cannon. And Jenkins wasn't
never mentioned Jenkins.
Yeah. Did Bob go all through school here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he graduated in 1932. Well, when we were going to school here, you remember some of the mill kids that would come from the mill?
Yeah.
They were the Meekums and.
Well, I was thinking after you invited me to come up here about them kids, and near as I can remember, there was from 20 to 25 kids get on that bus at that school bus, and then if you added up Patty and Bobby Collins and the Blands and Erickson's mill was on down the road, and some of the Harndons were there.
Yeah.
Then you come over the hill and you get Mark Anderson and I think the Peeler girls.
Yeah, the Peeler girls were down
So
there.
there was a family of Biggs, several kids there.
Yeah.
I think when that bus got to Mitchell, it had probably 40 kids in it.
That's hard to believe.
Let me see a picture. I can point some of these. This is Troy and Floyd Biggs right here on the bottom of this picture. Too bad you people at home don't have a picture of this, but
Well, maybe I'll put one up
post one up
on the Facebook
But,
at
you know,
some point.
This was 1949 when we started school here, and there was 26 kids in our class. And this was all first graders. This wasn't combined. This was all first graders. 26 of them, and I looked down here, and a lot of them were, like you said, came from Spoo's Mill. But we went through 12 years till we graduated, and of the original 26, there's only 4 of us that made it all 12 years together.
I know I asked you this before, but I don't remember any other grades in my room but our grade. But how could that be possible? That school wasn't that big.
Yeah, I think, let's see, I was trying to think where the first grade room was. When we walked in.
It was on the, on the southwest corner.
Okay, southwest. Yeah, okay. So if you were coming in from the west side, it'd be the first room on your right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be first, and then second must have been on down.
In second grade, we went right across the hall.
Yeah, okay, on that side. And then, yeah, but I think time we got to 8th grade, we were, you left here in the 4th grade, right?
5th grade.
5th grade. I think time we got to the 8th grade, we were in the room on the furthest part on the left-hand side. And then after we got to be, go up high school, you get to go up the steps.
Yeah, but didn't they have to have classes together? Because there wasn't enough room there.
They must have. I can't remember.
Yeah. There was only 4 classrooms downstairs, wasn't
Yeah.
Yeah, so it worked pretty good first, second, that first.
Yeah, but I don't know, putting 26 kids in that one of them rooms wasn't that big. That's pretty small rooms, actually.
Then when my brother got to school, they had that annex out there.
Yeah, up above. And that's probably the reason they built it, maybe.
First and second grade went there.
Yeah, up by the gymnasium, yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I went to first, second grade there too.
Yeah.
And then, 3rd and 4th down at the big school. And then we crossed 5th and 6th, and then it burnt down.
Yeah. Bill and I were talking here a while back. My dad drove school bus you had to be pretty damn tough because them mill kids were pretty tough. So school bus driver had to be pretty tough. But anybody that was in the high school or that age, they got into trouble. He'd just stop the bus and they'd get out and that's where they either walked home or walked to school or whatever. You couldn't do that today,
No.
but he didn't do it with the little bitty kids. But, some of the bigger ones, they probably could whoop them if some of them were pretty tough.
Especially they've been pulling green chain all summer.
Yeah. But I remember one time that a town kid might have been a little tougher than a mill kid. It happened up at the gymnasium, and I was out on the school grounds playing. I don't know if you saw it or not, but anyhow, I remember Marvin Wagner coming down, holding his arm and blood dripping down his hand, and the principal had Jack Duffy by the ear. He was dragging him down the deal, and they'd got into a little altercation, and Jack knifed him.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly. I mean, I'm sitting there, and we're 7, 8 years old, and blood.
Well, that Dean Meekum was kind of tough, and I don't know, him and I might have fought. I don't know, I can't remember, but I remember one time he got out a file and was filing his teeth, going to make his teeth sharper. and to me, that's tough.
Yeah,
it's pretty tough.
He's still alive, believe it or not. I guess that's how tough he is. I think he's probably the only one left, because I think Darrell died, and I don't know about Gary. Gary lost an eye in a dynamite accident up.
Yeah, him and that little Larry Brenda.
Yeah.
When they put the power line through, the power company left a truck up there with some caps in it. Mm-hmm. And they got in it, and that's when that happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember they stopped by to get fuel, I think, or something that day, and when they hauled him to the doctor. You
That
said he got
Larry
blown
Brenda
away.
ended up at that Woodpecker Truck Company out of Pendleton.
Oh, is that right?
I never seen him, but my son Tom seen him, and he called me and told me he met somebody that I used to know, and said Larry Brenda, and my first words was, I said, he's a real little guy. And Tom says, Dad, he's 30, 40 years has went by.
Well, that's when you first came to school that first day. I said, boy, everybody got around you and said, look at the ears on that kid, and and I thought, man, he's going to have to be a big man to ever grow into them ears. And luckily, you went well over 6 foot.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there were some pretty good times up there in that old mill, and my dad knew everybody up there, and some of them old guys that worked up there, like you was telling me about Heine Reed. He was the truck boss and did all the truck tire changing and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. And then Wicked, his wife was Wicked. I don't know what her given name was.
Victoria.
Victoria.
Yeah.
And they call her Wicked.
Yeah.
She was Wicked. All right.
She was tough too.
Yeah. Did she do something at the mill as far as?
No, she just was a substitute card player for my grandpa.
Oh, okay.
When he got mad at other people beating him, then he'd go play with Heine and Wicket.
Yeah.
And
well, did his brother also play?
my granddad's brother?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What, his name was Herman?
Herman. He's the one who had the wooden leg.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind of walked with a, yeah.
Funny thing was, when he was sober, he had to use the crutch. When he was drunk, he could just hike right along.
You think it might have been a sympathy limp maybe or something?
I never seen it, but I heard once he got drunk and went in a restaurant and ordered a cannibal sandwich, which he wanted just a hunk of raw meat.
Yeah.
And people didn't know he had a wooden leg because he had pants over,
Yeah.
So he took out his big long knife and cut a hunk of that meat, and blood running down his chin. Then he stabbed his knife in his leg and sat there.
I bet he used that a lot, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My Uncle Jim, he worked up there too.
Oh, I remember Jim well.
Yeah. But and I think it wasn't he wasn't hired because of his work ethic. He was hired because of his card playing ability.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah,
my granddad kept an extra 4 or 5 guys around so he could have a pinochle game going all day.
Yeah. Yeah. I can remember going into that room. It was over across from the mill a little bit, and it was right next to the creek that runs down, Keaton Creek, I guess.
That was Frank Sheffield's house. That's where he lived.
Is that where they was playing? Yeah.
No, Jim, that truck that he drove, he used a little Chevy, about a 49 Chevy dump truck. He'd haul wood downtown here.
Yeah.
And then I still had that truck when I left Nevada. I left it there when I moved up here.
Well, you should have brought it back, and it could have been among our archives up here in the museum.
Well, it wasn't worth bringing back. A guy that was supposed to be my friend stole the bed off of it.
Oh, well, I remember that old bed. It was, it held a lot of slab wood.
Yeah.
And I remember I don't know if they burned it at school, maybe. I don't know if they did or not. But I know the churches burned it because that's how your family got out of purgatory, I think. They donated the wood to the churches.
Well, I remember Jim would load up that truck, that little red Chevrolet with stove wood, and haul it to town and sell it. I think he got $5 a load or something. And then he'd come back and sit on the office steps there and fan himself with his hat in the shade and say, I'm the only one in this outfit bringing in any money.
Yeah, unless he's delivering to the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Now, you say you left here, it was in the 5th grade, right? And then you went to California?
After the 5th grade, I left here. And so I started the 6th grade in California.
Yeah, okay.
And I didn't want to leave, and we came back fairly often that first year.
Yeah.
And the next summer, so in California, I told people I don't live here. I live in Oregon.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, they didn't your grandparents get killed during the transition?
Yeah, after they sold the mill to Lundgren,
Uh-huh.
and they'd bought a house there and had moved one load down. And they moved the other load down, and a guy named Harnden was with them. I can't remember his name right now. A niece of his works for Ochico Feed. But anyway, they were in Grants Pass on the way back, and I guess there was a gas leak, and my granddad always lit a cigarette first thing when he got up, and it just like a bomb.
Boom.
Yeah.
Dang.
Killed him outright.
Yeah, well, he might have lived 3 or 4 hours or
Yeah.
something. My grandmother lived about 10 days.
Yeah. That's pretty tragic. But your dad carried on, and
Oh,
then,
yeah.
and you bought out some of the mills down in California, or
Yeah, they bought 3 or 4 of them down there.
yeah,
Then they gradually kind of petered out when they started losing timber.
yeah,
You know,
it was a deal. Yeah,
this Mitchell mill, I think probably 90% of the lumber from that went to Ward Roden at Pine Products.
yeah. I got tickled. I was reading about this when they first moved over here. When they first moved to Sisters, they were paying like 50 cents a thousand, and then they were selling it for like $10 to $12.
Yeah.
And but I guess today's standards that isn't very much money, but you would think that back in the days that they would probably brought a little more.
I think that they never did, I'm not positive, but I think here at the Mitchell Mill, they never did cut any Forest Service timber. I think it was all private,
Yeah,
like Collins and then the Fopiano and Francheri, and I guess off the side of Baldy Mountain, I guess that was Wart Roden's.
yeah,
And then I know they cut the Shoemaker place and some of Jackson's. And then I think they might even have cut some timber off of Coles.
Okay.
they. I was reading something I thought it was pretty interesting in this thing out of the Green Gold book by Martin Morissette, and I think your uncle wrote most of this stuff, which. Yeah, the Clay Showns owned that place where he set the mill up, right, at the time. I think that's
Well, I
what it
thought
was.
Jack Collins owned it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But they called it the Clay Shown place. It's once removed or something like that.
Oh.
But yeah, Clay, I think Jack bought it from Clay Shown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And actually, I don't know whether you know this or not, but Spoo's bought some timber from logs from Hudspeth.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They called it the 36 Section 36 sale, and they bought half of it. I don't know what the how much was or anything, but I think John at the time probably got into a cash squeeze a little bit and
Yeah.
everything, and they said that Spoo said they had the cash and they paid him cash for that timber tract, which was pretty good. I thought it was kind of interesting as I was reading through some of this stuff too about how Spoos were instrumental in getting the highway over the Ochicos built. They started that highway in 1941, and the war came along, and so they scuttled it. Well, in the meantime, they came back, and it stayed scuttled. So I think it was your uncle said he met somebody in Prineville one day and he said he was having a milkshake. But I don't know if that was true or not. It might have been right across the street from the bar. I don't know. Anyhow, they said that got to talking to him, and they were having trouble with these trucks hauling over that old road. And so, and I think he even went down to Salem with some of these people, and that was on the Chamber of Commerce. And through their effort and meeting with the Department of the Highway Commission, they expedited that road and it got built a little quicker. And I think I can remember that it was probably started in 41, and I think they finished it in about 54.
Yeah, I can remember when it went in, but I don't remember the year. But I think you're about right.
Yeah, it was sure nice. Yeah, we were talking about those trucks. They pulled a trailer. It was a trailer what, like 27 feet long or something? The back trailer behind the truck.
No,
It had to be a kind of like a pup.
it was more like a pup. I would say 20 feet.
20 feet.
Yeah,
But the truck was probably full length and hauled, 20 foot maybe?
I'd say 20 was all.
Oh, yeah. So it was about the same.
And they had live rolls on them trucks.
Yeah.
Because they'd back under the load on the green chain and back up to the trailer and roll it onto the trailer, then go load another one.
And when that just amazing how simple it was until then. That's they didn't know it was easier way to do it because at that time they didn't have much hydraulics.
No.
Yeah. So I watched them set pile that lumber up on those slips up there off the green chain.
Yeah.
And then they just back up and get it on there easy. And them rolls would roll that first part up, kick the slip over, and it'd fall down.
Yeah.
And then they just back up to the last one, and
Yeah.
it was on there.
Yeah, I think them rollers were chain drive.
Yeah. Now, when they got to the mill over there to unload it, did they unload it the same way or
No, I think that it was forklifts probably.
forklifts by then?
But I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, didn't your grandpa total out a train and going down LaMotta there in Prineville once?
No, it was over in Redmond. He run into the train and
Okay.
got out and told them that for them to pay their damages and he'd pay his.
Yeah, and they said his pickup was just rolled up into a kind of a heap, and only room he had was where he got out of.
Yeah, I think it might have scratched the train.
Yeah. You think he might have been a little impaired that time, maybe?
He did have a very serious drinking problem, I was told, for a long time.
Did he?
Yeah.
But he must have gotten over it.
Well, what I was told was the brothers, my dad and Bud and Willie, all got together and took him to some place in Portland to get the cure.
Oh, he took the cure.
And he took a cure, and what I understood was they just give him so much whiskey they could never stand to have it again.
My dad did that in 1944.
And it worked for him too?
Yeah. Yeah, and what they do, they just keep pulling up. You know, and they found out later on they could have alcohol poisoned these people.
Yeah.
But luckily they got sick, and
Yeah.
boy, every time they took a drink from then on in, they didn't want any more because that came back from being that sick and ill, you know. And that was I'm trying to think what the name of that was. It was kind of like a sanitarium, Raleigh Hills.
That's kind of familiar.
Yeah, Raleigh Hills is where they did the cure thing.
I remember they were still drug and alcohol treatment when I was a kid. They used to advertise on TV.
Yeah.
Raleigh Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they must have.
There were some places down there they used to take my grandma about once a year so she could lose weight.
Yeah.
Leave her there about 10 days.
Huh.
Then I remember when we'd get her, we'd go downtown and she'd order the biggest meal she could get.
Well, you know, you can only starve so long.
Yeah.
Well, it probably didn't do her much good. She'd lose weight while they starving her, but when she come back home, she'd probably
She put it right
put
back,
back
I
on.
think.
Yeah. Well, nowadays they got all these drugs and everything. They can make you not want to eat anyway, I guess. Yeah. Well, I was get back down to California again when you. A lot of these people around here don't know much about it. Now, of course, that's where you met your wife, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the first people I met down there.
Which town was it you were in, Bill?
Eureka.
Oh, Eureka. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that part of California down there. Isn't too bad.
It was really nice, really. There was lots of sawmills there, a few dairies, and quite a fishing industry. And what I'm getting at is everybody was working.
Yeah.
And if
There's something to do.
guy quit one job, he could have another an hour later.
Yeah. I the old houses.
Oh, they're pretty.
They are beautiful, and the people that bought them over the years have kept them up pretty well. I remember that they're kind of a Victorian style house, big, huge. I mean, there might be 20 rooms in some of these houses. There might be 3 levels. Yeah, it's pretty down. I remember going in the old hotel building down there, and they turned it into a brew pub. And of course, by that time I'd taken the cure and I wasn't drinking any beer. So, but my brother-in-law, Bill, and Dick, they got the little sampler thing. They brought out about 15 of these little shot glasses and different flavored beers, and then you'd pick one that you liked, and that's what the deal was. They looked like they were enjoying the beer anyway.
Yeah.
Wonder why that is. A lot of those houses down there were Victorian built, though. I mean,
I think
it's pretty predominant.
I think it probably had something to do with the seafaring people. They had a port there, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, big port, because 99% of our lumber we exported.
Yeah.
To Germany, and that wasn't too long after the war.
Yeah, they were rebuilding Germany then.
Germany and France, a lot of it went there, and even to Greece and places like that. And there would be like 5 or 6 of them freighters and big ships in port all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that might have been where the influence of the buildings came in. They probably came in there in schooners early on from England and Scotland, and a lot of times the reason it happened in Portland too, those people would sign on and say they got in England, and they'd sign on to the ship to work on it. And when they got here, they'd jump ship and they'd head for the gold field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how the Collins got here, the Owens, the Ericksons. They all came from that country, and they did the same thing. Sometimes they came clear to San Francisco and jumped off. Sometimes Portland they jumped off.
That's how the Collins got here too?
Yeah. Togo was a seafaring guy. Yeah. My dad used to tell some good stories. For some reason, Togo was a pretty good reader. He read a lot, and he could quote Shakespeare and all that stuff. He'd read all those, really pretty good books and everything. And so my dad said there was a character in Shakespeare. I'm not that familiar with it, but anyhow, this guy, the guy's name was Robert, and so he called my dad Robert the Devil because after this Shakespearean guy. And he told me this story once that he was in town. I might have put this on one of the podcasts, but it bears to be repeated. He said Togo had a drinking problem, and so he would come to town and get drunk and stay for a week or so, and then he knew he was going to face the fury when he went home. And so Dad said he had to go out to the ironmonger place, which was out on Waterman Flat, and Togo hooked a ride with him and said it was in the summer and it was pretty hot. And so they got over to the dam about a mile away from to the Fopiano, and so he said, Robert, you just let me out here. And he says, I'll just walk on in, and said, I'll walk briskly in this hot weather, and I'll be sweating and perspiring rapidly when I get there, and it'll create a sympathy effect, and maybe they won't be so harsh on me. So Dad went on over and did his business, come back, and he stopped by the house, see how things were going. And he got to Togo, and he said, Togo, how'd it go? He said, well, I should have rode all the way with you. There wasn't nobody home when I got here. So I thought that was a pretty good. About 5 years ago, I get a call from B.J. Thompson. She says, I got a table, and I want you to come look at this table. And somebody had wrote to go underneath it and put a date. I said, okay, I'll come out and look. And it was a nice old pine table somebody had built, it was pretty nice and everything. And so I get under the table, I look up, and I took my hand, and I traced the to go and the date. I said, you know what? I know exactly what this is. Togo was drunk and probably passed out and laying under this table one morning. He had a pencil, and so he just wrote up there and put that right on top of that, or on the bottom of that table. So that don't say to go, it's Togo.
Well, that's the safest place to pass out, though.
Yeah,
if you're going to pass out.
You're already down, you ain't going to hit nothing.
Pass out underneath the kitchen table, nobody will mess with you.
No, that Togo was Jack's dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was quite the guy, my dad said. And Dad said he took a liking to him, so he kind of took him under his wing and tried to teach my father something, I think, but didn't. Well, back down to California again. How long were you in? You say at one time you owned 2 mills down there?
Well, one time they had 4.
4.
Yeah.
My goodness. Were you cutting mostly redwood?
No, hardly ever cut any redwood. It's mostly all that old virgin, old growth Doug fir. Real high quality stuff.
Yeah. And it was all gold. Most of it went export. Huh?
Yeah, most of it went to Europe.
Huh.
Quite a little bit of the off-grade, what you'd call planer stock, would go to, believe it or not, Australia and Peru.
Now, did you have to cut that to metric dimensions?
No, the only thing I had to cut to metric was ship decking. That had to be perfectly clear, vertical grain with a slope of grain not to exceed 1 21 inches. And it was an odd size. It was something like 4.5 and 5 3/4, something like that. But that all went to Holland. Every bit of that went to Holland.
Big shipbuilding thing there.
Mm-hmm.
I bet that brought a little more premium, didn't it?
Pardon?
That brought a little more premium as far as money?
That was the most highest thing I could make.
Yeah. But it had to be clear.
Oh, perfectly clear. Yeah. Vertical grain. No heart centers, nothing like that.
Now, did you work in the mill yourself, or did you work? You didn't, or did you guys do your own logging down there like you did up here? Or?
They did for a while, and that was a mistake my dad made. He sold all his timber to Simpson Timber Company, supposedly for timber supply forever.
Yeah.
Forever didn't last more than about 12 years.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's funny. They had no idea that they were going to cut that much that fast.
Yeah.
I mean, but yet there they knew how much. I've seen some of them. They get a pretty good price, so they start loading it up and really filling the market, you know. And then pretty soon they get to that point, and then they'd have to shut down because they wasn't getting enough for it to make it work.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So
But my experience was all in the sawmill.
all in the sawmill.
Well, a little bit logging, but not much.
Yeah. Well, it's a little safer in there, maybe. Like I say, did you jippo all the logging out then afterwards, or did you just have one special logger? Or
Jippoed out some of it, but a lot of it Simpson would just deliver it.
just deliver it?
Jippo trucks would be Simpson from their logging operation.
Okay. Now, you sold them the timber, or did you just...
I can't probably.
And then you had to buy it back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before they went to California or in the process of going down there, they'd bought a lot of timber.
Yeah.
You know.
You're talking the Spoos bought a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't there too long before they sold a lot of it off in return for this supposedly never-ending supply of logs.
Yeah.
And probably they did that because the headache of loggers.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that kind of got... They may have lost a little money in value on the timber that they'd sold, but then they gained it back from... They didn't have to put up with that.
My dad always said nobody could tear up a pickup quicker than a logger. You know.
Well,
I've seen
I've
some
seen
logger
that
pickups.
happen. Yeah. I've seen. That's how you become a good timber faller, when you cut a tree and it falls right on top of your vehicle. You at least come up looking like
Well,
a
I'm
U.
guilty of that. Once when I was in high school, my dad sent me up by the reservoir above the mill, and it was a redwood tree, and it's probably 12 inches in diameter. He says, cut that down. So I grabbed a chainsaw and went up there and parked beside it and cut it down and fell right across my pickup.
I hate to admit it, but I did the same thing, only it wasn't quite that catastrophic. I just gotten my chainsaw because I knew if when I was drinking, I didn't get a chainsaw because I knew what was going to happen. But so I had my dad with me, and he was really, you know how dads can really make you feel confident and everything. Yeah, like, you know, idiot, you're going to fall the wrong way. It puts more pressure on you. So I'm sitting there, and thank goodness I had one of them lumber racks on my pickup. And I'm cutting this lodgepole, probably maybe 12 inches or so. And Dad looked at it and said, you know, that's going to fall right on your back. I'm like, no. No. I said, no, I got it there. I got this undercut here. It's going to go this way. He said, I think it's going to fall on that other way. And I said, nah, watch this. Down. My dad was really right. But fortunately, it fell right on the rack, of the lumber rack of the pickup. I said, well, see, I knew what I was doing. I don't have to pack it so far now. I'll just go in there and zip it up.
When I fell that tree, I fell it across the bed, and it put a pretty good crease right across it.
Yeah.
So I was trying to stay out of trouble, so I went back down to the mill, and old Bill Brady, he's a guy that worked here at Mitchell, too.
Oh, yeah, I remember the Brady's.
He was there, and so we hooked a chain on the bed on each side, and then hooked that to a forklift and tried to bounce it up and down.
Made it worse?
To pull it back up, and it kind of come up, but it didn't look good.
No.
Yeah.
I remember Tom Sylvia is also, he's a timber cutter. Otto before him was a timber cutter, and Harvey Lawler and all that. And Tom had this really cool little Jeep. It was a CJ. But you know, he packed all his stuff in it and everything. And one day he comes in on a trailer and it's hewed. You take and put a 40-inch log across the Jeep in the middle. They just hewed that sucker. And to my knowledge, I don't think either the back wheels or the front wheels were touching the ground.
Bent that hard.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
down there in California, they had what they called an alder tree. It was deciduous.
Yeah.
It's a real fast growing and it's soft to cut. You can chop one down real easy with an axe. Me and another young feller that I got to be friends with would take turns climbing them trees. One would climb it, and the other would chop it down, and we'd ride it down.
Yeah.
And the only trick was to try to be on the top side when it hit.
Yeah, right, yeah. Did it ever not work out?
No, quite a few times I ended up on the bottom.
Yeah. You know, that alder, they just used to crunch it up and leave it in the woods.
Yeah.
But now there's a pretty good market for it now.
For lumber?
Yeah. Yeah. Mark, when he worked for Weyerhaeuser in the Woods, they would take a lot of that stuff and I think they sold the logs just outright, and it went to Fruitland, Idaho, and they used for a lot of not molding per se, but for furniture. Yeah.
I'd think it'd have to be short pieces because I think it'd dry out, it'd curl up like a pretzel.
Oh yeah, I think so, and maybe that might be another reason they did it. They could curve it maybe or something.
Well, didn't they grow a lot of that up by Hermiston a few years ago, Boise Cascade, and they did it for pulp, I think, didn't
that
they?
was cottonwood.
Oh.
Yeah, that was cottonwood, and let's see, what was it? I don't think it was aspen. I think it was cottonwood because it grows really fast. But you know, and the more water you put, the faster it grows.
Yeah.
You know, it would get really long and tall. Yeah, I remember it. Dick lives up there, my brother-in-law, and I remember going up there, and you know, they bring in a feller buncher, and they just lay it down like you wouldn't believe, and just bundle it and put it on trucks and haul it to the pulp plant wherever it went and grind her up. It's supposed to make really good paper because it's really a light colored wood. That way they don't have to bleach it so much.
I don't think they replanted though. I think they just
No,
harvested.
I think
It went back in crops, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think so.
Well, I think they could make more money probably that way. Well, you know, log market, paper market, pulp market. Chips are sometimes up and down like a yo-yo. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, how long did you stay in California until you sold the mill?
I left before they sold the mill. When they I was running the operation for several years. And when we run out of good logs, we got what you call coal logs.
Yeah.
And all they did is just butcher them up and make chips out of them for the pulp mill.
Okay.
And I didn't want to stay for that, so that only lasted a year or so. But in the meantime, I moved to Nevada.
Uh-huh. Gerlach, right?
Gerlach, well, 30 miles out of Gerlach.
Oh, yeah. We won't discuss the name of the creek that you were living on.
not nowadays.
No.
It's not politically correct.
Yeah,
I take it.
no.
That's for sure.
Well, is that about that time? Is that when you started flying?
No, I started flying before I left California.
Okay.
Well, your dad and your uncles all flew, didn't they?
No, Willie never did, and
Oh.
Bud did a little bit, but he never got licensed. But my dad flew for quite a while, and I got a lot of practice that way. And
Well, didn't your dad and your other brother his other brother go into the service?
yeah, my dad and Bud were in the Navy.
Yeah. But they didn't fly in there. No, they were just in the Navy.
Actually, I think Jack Collins kind of got my dad started
They
flying.
probably did, yeah.
I'll be dang.
Yeah.
Because they both landed on the same strip up there. In fact, I remember, I forget what they pulled it with. Had one of them old pull graders. You had to turn the wheels, and they bladed out a strip. And Jack had that Taylorcraft.
Yeah. I remember at one time above the cabins, it'd be west up towards the Bland place, there was a little strip in there.
That was Stan Poole.
Oh, that was Stan Poole's strip?
He'd went to John Day, probably that was long about 52 or something like that. And he'd got his license, and he had a little Cessna 120, and that's where he kept it.
Oh, okay. So he didn't land on the other airport.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You
know. But Jack would land his plane there, then Jack seat up right by his house, you know.
Yeah. I remember later on, though, did your dad build the hangar?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little hangar there. I remember that.
I remember once my dad was flying Jack's Taylorcraft, and my mom and my brother and myself and Jack were standing there beside the runway, and my dad kept coming in too high.
Oh, yeah?
And Mom said, I wonder when he's going to land. And Jack kind of giggled and says, pretty soon, I know he's about out of gas.
Yeah.
That old Taylorcraft, the fuel gauge was a wire that come up through a lid. The tank was right in front of the windshield. And when that wire got down where you couldn't see it,
you knew you was getting low.
it was mounted on a cork, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty high tech.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So when you guys were growing up around there, did you explore the hills and
Oh, a
stuff?
lot. Yeah. It was an ideal thing. We'd go fishing up Keaton Creek or wherever,
Yeah.
go out in Mountain Creek and go swimming, or go out and shoot something.
Yeah.
And
I remember it had a pretty good swimming hole. I think I swam at it a couple of times down where your logging road came in and crossed.
yeah,
Across Mountain
just
Creek.
down below it towards Barnhouse.
Yeah.
It's just a little ways.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
swimming in that. I was probably trying to charge some of your girlfriends up there or something. Maybe I don't know.
That's the first time I ever smoked. It wasn't a cigarette, but there was them dried out lupins,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
they was hollow, and
Yeah.
we'd make a little fire and then light it and then take a puff real quick.
Oh yeah, we
Pretend
did.
like you're
We did
smoking
the
it.
same thing with. We call it smokeweed. It's some of this vine that grows
Yeah.
around. Burn your lips and your
Yeah.
nose and your eyes.
I
But,
guess-
well, I'm gonna be a smoker someday. I know I am.
I guess that's why I never smoked a cigarette in my life.
Did the
That
heck
might
with
have given
that.
you the cure. Okay, folks, you're all listening. You heard it here first. If you want to quit smoking, don't ever start smoking lupin. That's kind of poison for cattle, so I don't know. Maybe.
I think they got to eat a lot of it for it to kill 'em.
Before it does. Okay, good.
So you went to out to the desert there, and you mostly just ranched at that point, right?
Yeah, that was kind of like the old Homestead Act. It was called the Desert Land Entry, and you got 320 acres, and you had to prove up on it to grow a crop.
Okay.
But at the same time, you had to get the water right, and that was the same thing. You had to prove you had the water and grow a crop. And I guess that's where I got to liking rye. I proved up on thousands of acres with rye because it'd grow whether you watered it or not.
Well, when you say water right now, you irrigate out of the streams or you drill
No,
wells?
it's all
or-
wells.
All wells.
Lots of water under Nevada. It's went down now, but
Yeah.
I had wells that pumped well over 3,000 gallons a minute.
Huh.
I'll be
No.
dang.
But there never was no electricity there. It was all with diesel powered
Yeah.
pumps.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well, I don't know. Do you think electricity is cheaper now? I mean, was it been cheaper if you had electricity than would have diesel and the maintenance of
Some ways it's hard to say, but it would have been way more dependable.
yeah.
With sometimes running 10 or 12 of them big diesel engines and just something going wrong with them all the time.
Yeah, and you say you're 40, 50 miles away and you don't check them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Get out there and, hey, this thing quit just as soon as I left.
I do remember we always got fuel truck and trailer load at a time, quite a few of them. But in the early 60s, it was a nickel a gallon delivered,
Yeah.
diesel.
Well, that's not bad.
No. Yeah. Now the tax on it is like what, 40 cents, 45 cents maybe?
Probably, yeah.
But in the early 70s, when they had that first fuel shortage, and the diesel went to 13 cents. I had a neighbor, old Lloyd Ginocchio. He said, "This is the end, Bill."
That's it.
Yeah, if he'd have stuck around and he'd seen it go to $4, he'd have really been
Oh,
the end all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how long did you stay? I know you contracted out and you did some work for other people and help them with ranches and stuff.
Yeah.
Was all this time you were still running your place and helping them with
Most of
theirs
the
too?
time, the last few years, my place was just a pretty small place.
Yeah.
I was busy taking care of other things. But I spent, I think, altogether like 44 years or so there in Nevada.
Yeah. Well, it looks like it's kind to you. I mean, you're older than dirt and still in pretty good shape.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
When obviously you still had that place when you came up here in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have a whole lot left then.
Oh, okay.
But I had some. Yeah.
Yeah, you worked down Cherry Creek. Did you? Was that a lease deal, or did you work for Smith, or?
Well, it started out, I leased Bridge Creek and Owens. And then them New York people that were back of Bill, they bought Cherry Creek. And I don't know if they bought Fitzgerald at the same time, too. But then Bill wanted me to run that, and I still had some of it leased, and I was working for him. I don't know how you'd call it.
Yeah. He was a pretty good guy to work for, wasn't
Bill?
he? Yeah.
Oh, they don't get no better.
Yeah. That's what my dealings with him was always really, really top notch.
Probably one of the smartest guys I've ever been around in my life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He, pretty sharp.
Yeah, I think you did okay.
Yeah. I mean, he come in and set Bend on fire.
He'd what?
He come in and set Ben to fire.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
as far as development and doing all that stuff. I used to kid him and Joe Freedom both. I said, you know, you guys, Joe Friedman was in the real estate, and him and Bill were.
Yeah,
real
I knew
good buddies. They
Joe.
worked back and forth.
Yeah.
And I said, you guys are prostituting your lifestyle right out of Bend. I said, you're bringing all these people and all this stuff in. And I said, the reason you settled in Bend that didn't have all that stuff, now you're bringing it in, you're going to run yourselves out.
Well, we were eating dinner once, and Bill was complaining about all the congestion and traffic, and I just said, "Serves you right."
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Well, he fought that for a long time because, well, I mean, the Parkway, it was almost, it seems like it was obsolete by the time they had it finished.
Well, you know, his partner, Mike Holleran, was on the Department of Transportation. And they were just talking that Parkway. Well, if you ever get on the Parkway now, you enter in Bend, and you know where it ends.
Yeah.
Right at the old mill district.
Yeah, well, it works pretty
Yeah.
good.
So it kind of leads them right there.
Yeah, swoops around.
So it worked out all right for both of them.
I don't know this for a fact at all, but I think a lot of the boom and bend can be laid to Bill.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he first started, I think he got that old mill. When it came on sale, I said, you know what? Bill Smith's going to end up with that. I told Mary, I said, I just know he is. He's dealing for it right now. And everything.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks later, it closed, and he did. and he told me he really didn't want to get into the real estate end of it, but most of these people, these retail shops and everything he was trying to attract, they don't own nothing.
Yeah.
They don't want to own nothing. They lease everything.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, he had to get into that end of the business, and I don't think he really wanted to, but I think he's done well with it.
Well, he's done real well.
Mm-hmm.
I know one time, nothing to do with Ben, but he bought that all that property on Lake Billy Chinook,
Oh, yeah.
and he had me go over there, and he says, "Take anything you want back to the ranch,
Yeah.
parts, whatever." I took a really good old beautiful cook stove, and
Oh,
what
nice.
it was, he was buying it for the Indians.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to buy it outright. They wanted Bill to buy it.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later to quietly transfer it.
Turned it over, yeah. That's all that Matolia strip, wasn't it?
I think I still got some of them bolts.
Yeah, that's
Well, you never know when you're going to need one.
yeah. I was let's see, I was thinking Ray Arley had a place down there on the Metolius River, and I don't know if Bill bought that or not. We went up there once on the Metolius, and we rented a houseboat and went up far as we could go till we run aground almost. And, but there's a lot of private stuff up there, but all the Indian stuff's over on the other side. But they were, like you say, they were buying that stuff up.
Well, where this was at was kind of an old resort or something.
Oh, okay. That's probably might have been right. Yeah, right up the river. Probably.
I think I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was right in that area. But that they were having him piece it together that way. They didn't get adverse publicity, and
Yeah.
probably, and knowing Smith, he's buying it a lot cheaper than they could have.
Yeah.
Yeah. He done all right over there. Well, is there anything else we need to be
No, but
about?
I mean, we could do this again. Shoot, we're about 40 minutes in. We've done pretty good. Plenty of BS thrown around.
Yeah, we'll probably got a few more probably later on. Maybe.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thanks
And
for coming over, Bill.
Bill did pretty good. I'm proud of you, buddy.
Yeah, for all the retard things I've done in school.
Well, thank God you got out of Mitchell where you could get a good education.
The best thing ever happened to me was Mrs. Campbell.
Oh yeah,
You know.
yeah. I tell you what. The best thing ever happened to you was Elmer Spencer.
Well, he used to beat on me.
Well, there's a little discipline, and I tell you what, you're probably a better at math today because of Elmer Spencer.
Yeah.
My gosh, he would send us home at night, and you know, 4 or 5 pages of math homework every night. And boy, and I seen him whip a kid once, and I don't know if it was you or not, but I didn't want to go that route. I figured that out, so I did my homework pretty diligently.
Well, that Mrs. Duncan in the 5th grade was pretty good too.
Yeah. You know, I hate to tell you this, but she had a pretty good looking daughter too.
I don't remember that, but I know you would. So, yeah.
Her name was Linda. I don't know. I just had that eye, you know. I appreciate beauty. I was reading a part in the Bible the other day, and in the Beatitudes, Jesus had written it, and it said, if you look upon a woman with lustful eyes, you've already committed adultery, you know? And I said, man, I'm guilty.
You're in
But
deep trouble.
I wasn't really thought I was looking through with adulterous eyes. I thought I was looking through with, behold the beauty, you know?
Yeah.
But I hope Jesus buys that. I think he will.
Well, I read that text once and thought the same thing. Hell, I'm guilty for 10,000 times.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe that's the sin nature and everything, but you know, I used to say, I had this line. I tried it once or twice. I said, "Are you a Christian?" "Yeah," she'd say. I said, "Well, you believe that Jesus died for our sins?" "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, you want to sin a little? That way he wouldn't die in vain." Every time. Whack.
Well, I went to a revival once over in Prineville, and my folks have been going once in a while, and that preacher said the next topic was going to be the unpardonable sin. So I didn't run and hide at the mill camp that day. I went, and I wanted to find out what that was.
Yeah.
And what it was, if you done something wrong and you found out it was wrong, then did it again a couple times, you've had it. You're all done.
You're all in.
I was 10 years old, and I thought, well, I've shot my water
Yeah,
already.
I'm going to hell for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you figure you're already a done deal, you might as well go ahead and do the rest of them, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming out over, Bill, and well, maybe if you want to come back again. Shoot.
Sure.
Yeah, we might even bring 2 or 3 people in and get them going if we can find any more people.
All we need is more microphones. We'll get in there one way or another. But what
do you think of this equipment? We really went top notch.
Those are the cheapest microphones you could get on Amazon.
Shut up.
Well, I knew you wouldn't go for the spinny
I'm
ones.
gonna get
I
a
wanted.
new producer if you don't shape up here, buddy. Yeah. Well, I thought Bill would be impressed anyway.
Well, they're red.
Yeah, they're red. I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's
the
a little. That's a
the
little more.
interface for the computer. That's pretty spendy. That's a good piece.
That's
of
what
equipment.
takes it from these, puts it in there, and then takes it and puts it in that thing. And if something happened to Robert, this is probably a done deal. This is the 18th or 19th?
18th episode. Yeah,
18th.
You've accumulated probably what absolutely has to be the most comprehensive and complete history of Mitchell.
Oh yeah, pretty much. You know, and I tell people, I said, I'm good enough. If I don't know for sure, I can make it up as quick you think I do. So
Yeah.
I've actually created a little history.
Yeah, I think I've caught a couple of those creations. But...
yeah. Well, you know, if it makes a good story.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just call it oral history. I mean, you don't have any primary resources there.
Yeah. We'll just put a footnote when we get the book out.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and fact check it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I've got that beat. I got that business card that said convincing liar. So right off the bat, people know where they're at with me.
It's good to tell them up front.
Yeah, let her go. Okay, you ready to wind her up?
Yeah, let's do her.
Okay, hey, y'all take care out there, and may the good Lord take a liking to you.
Amen.